Wagner isn't Russia's only problem. The war is slowly creeping inside their borders. And guess what? It's Russian citizens who are bringing it. A group of anti-Putin fighters are looking to capture Belgorod. It's a city in southern Russia. The Kremlin says the assault has been repelled, but the rebel fighters disagree. They claim the operation is still underway. So who are these Russian citizens fighting their own country? Why are they opposing Putin? And what is their end game? Our next report tells you all about it.
It's an Instagram offensive. Soldiers riding into town on tanks, clicking selfies at captured buildings. It's an offensive Russia did not expect. So who are these fearless fighters? Turns out they're Russians. Time for a rewind. May 22nd, Monday. The city of Belgorod wakes up to this scene. Plumes of smoke rising to the sky. There's been a cross-border incursion. Fighters aligned to Ukraine have struck. Their operation was a surprise, but their message even more.
We are Russians just like you. We are people just like you. We want our children to grow up in peace and be free people.
The fighters are not Ukrainian. They belong to two Russian groups, Russian Volunteer Corps and Freedom of Russia Legion. Both were formed last year. Their mission? To fight for Ukraine. These groups oppose Putin's control over Russia. Some also eulogize Imperial Russia. While their motives differ, their plan is clear: repel the Russian invasion. Many of these fighters have been deployed on the front line. On paper, Ukraine doesn't control them. But on the battlefield, they fight the same enemy. Monday was a turning point for these groups. For the first time, they took the fight to Russia. Belgorod is located near the border. It's just 40 kilometers from Ukraine. The residents were caught off guard.
First guns fired, then mortars, machine guns, the sound of machine guns, full-fledged, specifically. Nothing like this has happened since I lived here.
The fighting raged for 2 days. The Russian rebels claimed to have captured multiple villages, but soon the empire struck back. Russian military launched a counter-offensive. They say 70 fighters were killed, and the rest pushed back into Ukrainian territory.
We will continue to respond to such actions by Ukrainian militants promptly and extremely harshly.
Fighting done, it was time for propaganda. Russia says the rebels used vehicles made by the United States. They also have pictures. But the rebels say it's just war. You make do with looted and captured equipment. Like this one. The rebels managed to capture a Russian armored truck. They brought it back to Ukraine, posed with it, and invited journalists to have a look. The rebels had a stern warning for Moscow: expect more attacks.
Our future plans are entering new territories of the Russian Federation, which we will definitely enter. In principle, you should be just a little bit patient and wait just a couple of days to see us again on that side.
What does this daring cross-border attack mean for the war? It's the first time Russia was defending. So symbolically, it's important. It could also force Russia to reassign some troops. Putin cannot assume that his border towns are safe. These rebels could strike any time. So what's his option? To take troops out of the front line and redeploy them. A small victory for Ukraine. Another consequence could be this. Russia uses this attack to escalate further, to push deeper into Ukrainian territory. It's certainly possible, especially since the rebels used Western equipment. Ukraine has distanced itself from the attack. They say, we don't control the rebels. But the Russian fighters tell a different story.
Planning, we could consult with them. We said, okay, we think this would be a proper attack on this, proper attack on that. What do you think? Is it a plausible aim? Is it like proper, good idea? Should we go here? Should we go there? So we could consult with them.
These fighters are a headache for Russia. They are well-trained, battle-hardened, and most importantly, not affiliated to Ukraine. at least not on paper. This helps them operate in the shadows, to strike wherever and whenever they want. For a change, it's Russia on the defensive.
Let's begin with the war. No, this is not about Ukraine. I'm talking about what's happening inside Russia, specifically within Putin's inner circle. The story is about the men who lead Putin's offensive. Recently, the Russian side made a big claim. Moscow said they have captured Bakhmut. Ukraine has contested that claim. If true, this is a major win for Moscow. It should have been a reason to get optimistic. But instead, warnings are being raised. Yevgeny Prigozhin says there could be a revolution in Russia, one that could plunge Russia into turmoil. He's calling for martial law in the country. Prigozhin is Russia's most powerful mercenary. He leads the Wagner Group, is a close ally of Vladimir Putin, and the man on the front lines of the Russian offensive in Bakhmut. He has given an interview, and he says this war could break up Russia.
Элите Российской Федерации соберите.
All these divisions can end in what is a revolution, just like in 1917. First, the soldiers will stand up, and after that, their loved ones will rise up.
Теперь все справедливо.
That was a message for the Russian elite. Prigozhin says a revolution could rock Russia. He's calling them out. What divisions was he talking about? Prigozhin says, as the war in Ukraine continues, Russia's rich and powerful are still leading lavish lifestyles, while the rest are being forced to join the war effort. Once again, Prigozhin has singled out Russia's defense minister, Sergei Shoigu. In this interview, Prigozhin refers to Shoigu's family members. He claims they are holidaying in Dubai, while the country is at war. This new interview is a scathing attack on the Russian elite. Prigozhin says their carefree lives could lead to a public uprising. Ordinary people could stand up against them and attack the elite with pitchforks. In his interview, he raises the specter of a 1917-style revolution, when there was an uprising against the Tsar, Nicholas II. He and his family were executed by Bolsheviks, one of the leaders of the revolution. The movement ultimately swept Vladimir Lenin into power. Prigozhin is now warning this could happen again. It gets worse. A new video has come out. Prigozhin says the Wagner Group is now leaving Bakhmut.
We are leaving for the back areas.
Yes, we were told that we would be leaving. We are slowly moving back.
The main thing is to be careful, one unit at a time. Well, all the rest, before June 1, we'll all gather and transfer the positions to the military.
It will be done. We will complete the task given.
This video came out today. The Wagner chief says he has suffered heavy losses. The battle for Bakhmut. Wagner lost 20,000 of his soldiers. That's the claim from Prigozhin. So how should we see this latest tirade? Throughout this war, Prigozhin has had an axe to grind with the military establishment. Prigozhin had led the war effort in Bakhmut, but he has made more news for his feud with the Russian defense minister. He has accused him of denying Wagner ammunition and repeatedly threatened to withdraw from Bakhmut. Now he's intensifying his attacks. In that same interview, he said Ukraine is now stronger.
We spoke about denazification of Ukraine. We have made them a nation known all over the world. If at the beginning of the special operation they had, let's say, 500 tanks, now they have 5,000 tanks. If they had 20,000 men to fight with, now they have 400,000. How have we demilitarized it? It turns out that it is the other way around. We have militarized the hell of Ukraine.
Well, that sounds like an appreciation. Is Prigozhin rebelling against his boss, Vladimir Putin? Not quite. Prigozhin's loyalties still lie with the Russian president. He just hates the Russian defense minister.
Now for political credo. I love my motherland. I serve Putin. Shoigu is useless and we will fight on. That's it.
I serve Putin. Shoigu is useless. That's the message from Prigozhin. Perhaps that's why he is setting him up to fail. The Wagner chief now says they'll withdraw from Bakhmut by June 1. They'll hand over the charge to the Russian forces. Those soldiers who report to Shoigu. Meanwhile, Ukraine is intensifying its operations there. Ukrainian soldiers are on the outskirts of Bakhmut and they're trying to move in. So the fighting will intensify. But what about the infighting within Russia's top brass? Prigozhin's statements cannot be ignored. He's part of Putin's inner circle. His nickname is Putin's chef. That's also because Prigozhin once provided catering services to the Russian president. But these days, Prigozhin likes to be called as Putin's butcher. This is due to the central role of the Wagner in his war. But the Russian Defense Ministry doesn't like him either. When Russia claimed it captured Bakhmut, the statement from Moscow mentioned the Wagner forces, but it did not name Prigozhin. So there's clear infighting. It remains to be seen who comes out on top. Over to some US politics now. Donald Trump has a new challenger in the Republican Party. This man, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. He's been hinting at running recently, but on Wednesday, he made it official. Just one problem though. The announcement went horribly wrong. DeSantis chose to do it on Twitter Spaces with Elon Musk. Both men were online and ready to go. But Twitter had a meltdown. Take a look.
Tonight, I'm pleased to introduce two individuals. He kept Florida's schools open and its economy thriving, while my state of California chose 2 years of learning loss and lockdowns that we have yet to fully.
So, I'm obviously very excited to have Governor DeSantis make this.
The feed kept getting cut out. The voices were muffled and the connection horrible. We still don't know what happened to Twitter, but Elon Musk is blaming the traffic. Around 250,000 people had joined the stream. Maybe the servers just couldn't take it. Either way, social media had a field day with it. Even DeSantis' rivals took jibes at him. Look at what President Joe Biden tweeted. This link works. It was a link to donate to the Biden-Harris campaign. Donald Trump wasn't far behind. He posted this meme video on Instagram. Have a look.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Ron DeSantis Twitter space.
Hello? Is my microphone working correctly?
George, can you just wait while we...
Hello? Can you hear me?
We can all hear you, George. Can you just hold on for a second?
Hilfa, I don't think they can hear me.
Hear you fine, George. Just speak to the
I don't think George knows how to use Twitter.
Hello? Can you hear me now?
Can I please make my big announcement now? Everyone just...
Hello?
Just shut up, George.
Can somebody just mute George?
Memes aside, what does this announcement mean? Ron DeSantis is relatively new in politics. His career began in 2012. He was elected to the US House of Representatives. After that, he launched a Senate campaign. When that didn't work out, DeSantis ran for Florida governor. He won in 2018. A big reason for that was Donald Trump. Trump endorsed DeSantis. He also praised his handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. It was a mentor-protege relationship. But once Trump left office, that changed. DeSantis had big ambitions. He had a national appeal and wanted to be president. So now both men are bitter rivals, but their politics is mostly similar. Hardcore conservatives, anti-LGBTQ, anti-abortion, and highly combative. But who holds the edge? Trump is still the favorite. A recent poll found that 53% Republican voters want Trump. Only 26% want DeSantis. So what's the strategy to turn it around? DeSantis has billed himself as Trump light. He realizes that attacking Trump is dangerous. He would lose support across the board. So his strategy is to present himself as a toned-down version of Donald Trump, not ideologically, but otherwise. For example, Trump has legal cases against him. DeSantis doesn't. Trump says the 2020 election was rigged. DeSantis doesn't. So the strategy is to get the best of both worlds, the hardcore Republicans and the moderates. DeSantis says his party must end the culture of losing. Listen in.
There is no substitute for victory. We must end the culture of losing that has infected the Republican Party in recent years. The tired dogmas of the past are inadequate for a vibrant future. Biden's allowed woke ideology to drive his agenda. We will never surrender to the woke mob.
That's his favorite attack. He keeps talking about the quote-unquote woke ideology. It makes him a very divisive figure. As governor, Ron DeSantis has pushed a hardcore conservative line. He has cracked down on the LGBTQ community, on abortions, on gender equality. Have I missed out on anything? Okay, wait, even climate action. His adverse views on these issues make him highly controversial, but they also make him very popular. Will it be enough to challenge Trump? Not yet. Some say DeSantis lacks charisma. Now, Biden and Trump aren't exactly charismatic charmers, but both of them score elsewhere. Biden is a Washington veteran. Trump is a celebrity and former president. DeSantis is neither. Plus, his foreign policy chops are untested.
I think we're going to see some changes from him in the next few weeks. I think he realizes that he's going to have to become more of a showman, while at the same time tacking in somewhat moderate directions. To try to do both of those is a challenge. If he's able to do it, he might be able to get more support and be a more viable challenger for Trump.
So the verdict is clear. DeSantis is popular, but not popular enough to challenge Donald Trump. They say storms always pass. That may be true, but only as long as you're not living on Jupiter. This planet is known for its constant storms and sheer size. It is our solar system's largest planet. Jupiter is so huge, it can fit over 1,300 Earths inside it. It is the fifth planet from the Sun and one of the brightest objects in the sky. But with that, it also makes science seem a bit dull sometimes, because so far, no one has been able to fully understand this planet. It's a big cosmic conundrum and a colorful one. Why do we say so? Because Jupiter keeps changing its colors and no one could understand why. Well, until now. Scientists have finally discovered why Jupiter's colors keep changing. Our next report tells you all about it.
This is Jupiter, the biggest planet in our solar system, just doing its own thing in space. But as relaxed as it seems, it can be quite temperamental. Mostly because it's so gassy all the time. This doesn't have much to do with what Jupiter had for dinner. Its moods are ever changing. But one thing is constant. Jupiter is always stormy. It has a very thick atmosphere and really strong winds which create complex weather patterns. And Jupiter's clouds are constantly pushed around because of this ever-present storm. But these clouds don't work like they do on Earth. They form bands which swirl around. And from where we see Jupiter, these bands look like stripes. Like in these visuals you see, it almost seems like this planet has stripes, which is made of different colors. But here's the catch, and this is where Jupiter's temperamental behavior comes in. This planet's stripes aren't constant. They not only move around a lot, along with the moving clouds, but they also change color. Now, that's where the real trust issues begin. Why, you ask? Because you never know which color Jupiter decides to wear on a given day. Sometimes it seems to be donned in pastels. Other times, the color palette looks dark and almost angry. And these colors change every 4 to 5 years. But as interesting as this so-called outfit change is, it is also one of science's greatest mysteries. For the longest time, scientists didn't know what made Jupiter change its colors, but now we have an answer. Thanks to the astronauts from the University of Leeds, they have published new research. It is based on information from NASA, whose spacecraft has been orbiting Jupiter for about 7 years now. So why does Jupiter change its colors? It has a lot to do with the planet's magnetic field, which is extremely intense, about 20,000 times stronger than Earth's. Every few years, there are changes in Jupiter's field, and these changes happen deep inside the planet, about 50 kilometers below the gas giant's surface, the result of which is seen on the planet's surface. Think of it as a churning on the planet. This affects Jupiter's weather. Sometimes it takes quite personally, considering its constant storms. So, as this weather goes a little crazy, causing the color of stripes to change, there are still many unanswered questions. But this advance is surely a leap forward. Hopefully, research will better our understanding about Jupiter and its ever-fluctuating moods.
And now it's time for Vantage shots, images that tell the story starting with Iran. The country has test-launched a ballistic missile. Iran says its missiles are an important retaliatory force against the US and Israel. In Guam, Typhoon Mawar has made landfall. The Category 4 storm has caused some major damage. We'll show you satellite images as well. In Australia, a massive fire broke out at a multi-story building in central Sydney. Eyewitnesses felt the ground shake before walls of the building collapsed. And finally, what makes May 25th significant? Taking you back in history, on this day in 1969, a military coup led by Commander Jafar Nimairi overthrew the government in Sudan. Nimairi ruled Sudan for more than 15 years. He was ousted in 1985 in another military coup led by his own defense minister. We leave you with that. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
Email exchanges from inside the BBC, they talk about the risk of violating Indian laws. It's easier to rake up the freedom of speech debate, but does it give anyone a free pass to knowingly violate the law? America supports India because it needs India's support in return. And India is working with the US because it suits India's interests. This is how geopolitics works. Last night, he diffused a crisis with his defense minister. But today, Netanyahu was confronted with a new problem. His cabinet seems to have rebelled against him. The UK is looking at the Indian subcontinent to fill its coffers. That India seems to be negotiating from a position of power, like a partner and not a former colony.